All right, we are going live. It is Kitty Chambliss here of Loving Without Boundaries. I am excited to be here with the amazing and lovely Coach B. We are thrilled to have a beautiful topic for you today, talking about nurturing teamwork in consensually non-monogamous relationships, which, wow, is so incredibly important, including just some of the conversations B and I were having before we got on the live stream here. So we're excited to have this conversation with all of you. And just in case you are seeing this on various different social platforms, if you are looking for a community, you can feel free to join our private group. We are on Facebook. If you do a search for Loving Without Boundaries, Healthy Open Relationships and Lifestyle Freedom, you can find us there. Or you can also go to the website, lovingwithoutboundaries.com. And there you can find our award-winning podcast. We're releasing our 265th episode tomorrow, which is pretty incredible. And you can also come join our newsletter and announcements. And we're starting to do quarterly live events here in the Alexandria, Virginia area as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give the mic over to B to get us started on our topic of nurturing teamwork in consensually non-monogamous relationships. Thank you, B, for being here and for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation.
You know very well that it's my absolute pleasure and honor to serve this community. And yes, indeed, that's such a beautiful topic to bring to our conversations, and a really crucial pillar for happier, more adaptable, flexible, more joyful, and more fulfilling relationships. You can work together as a team. And like some of the characteristics that a teamwork has that also could like a two-person system is there's this ability from both of us to prioritize the needs and well-being of both ourselves and our partners, and also the relationship as well. There's open communication, active listening, collaborative and really effective problem solving. There's validation, there's mutual respect and mutual support. We set goals really effectively, make decisions like pretty quickly. We keep interpersonal stress to a minimum. So we really aim for those win-win-win scenarios so that everyone can win. So that's indeed like such a really fulfilling and enriching place to be in a relationship. However, sometimes that can be difficult for so many of us to really appreciate and embody this team approach. And there's no shaming around that, because I don't know about you, but I definitely didn't grow up with like great role models. So what I saw, what relationships were about is that, yeah, you say something, yes to something, and you stick with that for the rest of your life, even if it's fully painful. So that was what was modeled. So healthy teamwork, how we work together beautifully in a supportive way, how we create these powerful win-win scenarios, this wasn't modeled. So sometimes it gets in the way of us showing up in teamwork in consensual non-monogamy as well. And also the other thing that can happen, why we can't always show up as teams, is once we get triggered, whatever trigger comes up, we get frustrated, anxious, angry. It's really difficult to stay in that place where we still connect. So when we being swept away by these really big triggers, even if with the best intentions, and sometimes if we have the most advanced skill set, sometimes those skill sets unfortunately go out of the window because those parts of the brain just shut down in a trigger state that hold the skills that hold our connective ability. And sometimes it also happens that we both want to work together as a team with each other, but we unfortunately have a different idea about how teamwork could look like. So again, no person would be like right or wrong. It is just simply sometimes we're not in alignment with how we approach working together as a team. So these were just a few points that I wanted to mention as introducing the topic.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, B. Yeah, I think it's an incredibly important topic, because we often say around here, rising tides lift all boats, and that is absolutely true. And I fully believe that. Yet at the same time, if you are in a relationship, whether it's with one person or more of a throuple or a triad situation, if there is some of the folks are really willing to do the work and to implement different communication tools or different ways of relating in healthy ways, concepts like we teach with our clients. And there's one or more people that just don't want to use those tools or who are incredibly resistant. You can change the dance steps, we often say, and that can be really helpful. But at the end of the day, it may not be sustainable into the future. You may get to a place where you realize that you're either not compatible with somebody or it's just feeling very toxic and dysfunctional. And you can, to B's point, you can be unconsciously or covertly recreating things that showed up in maybe the family that you grew up in unconsciously, unintentionally. And it can also become like a trauma bond between people. So it's really important to make your own commitment to yourself of what it is that you want, what it is that you're looking for. So if you want to be in nurturing healthy relationships where both or multiple parties are using various healthy tools, different, like wanting to be in a more constructive and loving and supportive dynamic, well, then that's what you need to hold the vision for. And what I will vulnerably share is B knows I've been reading the book Conscious Uncoupling, which was actually a book recommended to me by one of our beautiful and amazing clients. And there's an exercise there. There's 5 steps to it. And in step 3, it has you think through what are some, they call it your source fracture story. We might call it as coaches, limiting beliefs or narratives that are disempowering. And what are some of those stories? And then it asks you, what age are you when you believe this story is kind of coming from or originating from? And it reminded me of a moment when I was 6 years old, that when I, the house I grew up in, I was always chilly when I would wake up to go to school. I went to Catholic school, and I would go under the kitchen table where there was a heating vent and kind of not hide. I was just kind of staying warm under the kitchen table because, of course, I was really small at 6 years old. And I would do that before I had to get into my uniform and have breakfast and all of that to keep warm. And one time I was sitting under there, and my parents didn't know it and came into the kitchen and just started having a really verbally aggressive fight. I don't remember what it was about because that was 49 years ago, but it was very upsetting to me. And I just remember crying and thinking, oh my God, my parents are going to get divorced. Where am I going to live? And I just started like having these spiraling stories as a 6-year-old. And of course they heard me crying. So they stopped fighting. And they looked down below the kitchen table and they were like, everything's okay. And they tried to soothe me, but I'd already started writing stories of love is hard and causes fighting, and love isn't safe and relationships aren't safe. My home isn't safe. And I realized that that's where I started to have that thought process, which I thought was a weed I'd ripped out a whole long time ago. But it's interesting just to go through those exercises because as human beings, we all have different narratives and stories, and those weeds, like even though you can go into the ground, if you use that metaphor, and pull a weed out, there's still those little roots that are down there and you may not know it, so it's really important to be either working with a professional or a coach or somebody that you trust, or just doing that deep inner reflective work, which can be difficult for some people to do on their own, and figure out what are some beliefs that might be down there, because for me, that belief could be inhibiting me being able to show up as my best self, to surround myself or believe even that other people are willing to be on the same team with me, that other people are willing to do the work. Like maybe I have a belief that I've got to do all the work, right? So it's important to look through that and be self-reflective and introspective so that you can heal those things from the past and then write new stories and new narratives and then code and condition those new narratives, whether it's through meditation or chanting, as you'll hear on the podcast interview with Jesse Dean that's releasing tomorrow, that I'm definitely going to be exploring as we talk about that. And what's interesting, I'll share too, in the podcast that's getting released tomorrow, Jesse shares that he went on a year-long sabbatical from his wife, and they've been together, I can't remember the exact number. I want to say 43 years. And so one of those 43 years that they were together, they were separated for a year. And that was what he found was what they needed in order to get back on the same team. You know, they needed that separation, kind of take that 30,000 foot view. And that's what worked for them. So I love this topic of nurturing teamwork in consensually non-monogamous relationships, because let's face it, when we are coloring outside of the lines of heteronormative monogamy, it can shine a spotlight or a flashlight illuminating the areas that we need to grow in or the relationship needs to grow. And there's no shame in that. We all have areas to grow. So just wanted to share that vulnerably and pass the mic back over to you, B.
Thanks, Kitty. You highlighted such a really important point, like identifying our fracture stories or limiting beliefs or disempowering beliefs or false beliefs, however we call them, that shape our choices, shape how we see ourselves, the other people, the relationships, and the world as well. Because with that, we can prevent so many pain, like the exhaustion that comes from the lack of teamwork, the constant fights, the unmet needs as well. And there's indeed a way to get those weeds out and plant a beautiful garden. As Kathy Labriora said, the one and only Kathy Labriora, we had a beautiful discussion with last week, Kiri and I, and with our amazing clients. Is like one of the success recipe, or part of the success recipe, is like becoming the right person for the dreams that you want, and pick the right people for your dreams. And for that, it's important to identify, like, okay, I want certain types of relationships, like really joyful and fulfilling relationships. But if my belief is that relationships are painful, I'm not worthy of beautiful relationships, that's gonna impact my choices and the quality of a consensual non-monogamous relationship. So especially if you're starting out on your journey, stepping into consensual non-monogamy, that can be like really confusing, and there's a lot. There might be a lot to unpack, and even scary, because it can bring up so many things that you, Kiri, said, like shining a spotlight on so many things that can actually be turned into a beautiful opportunity to cut some of those weeds and plant a beautiful garden. So you can rewrite the old stories that haven't served you, and create new ones that can help you build the relationships and life that you would like to have moving forward in this lifestyle.
So beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more that it can be so draining and exhausting to get in these vicious patterns, and so illuminating to realize from a place of self-responsibility and extreme ownership, how am I contributing to what's going on? You know, how am I not being a good team member? Because once we look at it through that lens, then we can do something about it, whether it's doing our own internal work or also learning how to set healthy boundaries. In some cases, it might mean de-escalating a relationship, which can be very painful. One thing to think about, though, with consensual non-monogamy is it's a journey, right? So you might de-escalate a relationship, just like the podcast interviewee, Jesse Dean, like they took a sabbatical for a year. They kind of, as Jessica Fern and David Cooley, they call it creating a temporary vessel. They created a temporary vessel for that sabbatical for that year. And then they checked in with each other, and in their case, moved back in together and kind of rebooted their marriage so that they could nurture their connection. They could get back on the same team so that they can be meeting each other's needs and kind of change those toxic dance steps that weren't working for them for the long haul, not just for 5 minutes, not just for a week. That's what I've seen even in my own life. Like things might be good for a few weeks or a few months, but it's really, how do you change that sustainably into the future? And it does start with you as an individual, and you can do your best to work as a team and see if you can come together and create some long-term relief moving forward. So anything else you'd like to share, B? And I'd love to give you the mic back.
Yeah, what I'd like to highlight from your share, Kiri, is also the importance of the pause. Sometimes we need to pause. Sometimes we can agree to pause beautifully and compassionately. Again, no one has to be right or wrong. Just simply noticing that something might need work, and we can decide together how we want to work on that. That sometimes the pause is 2 days. Sometimes the pause is a 1 year sabbatical, and then we can come together even stronger. And also, what I heard, that's also part of the success that underscores teamwork, is the intentionality, and sustainability is definitely a keyword. So it might be worth considering, like, okay, like how do I want my life and relationships look like, and what do I want to grow into, or who do I need to grow into to create that particular type of life. So I really loved your share, also mentioning the Conscious Uncoupling book, which is really beautiful and powerful.
Yeah, and I think you also, B, will really enjoy the podcast that's getting released tomorrow with a dear friend of mine named Jesse Dean, and he does talk about different modalities with meditation that helped him team and partner with himself in his own healing, and then support him nurturing that sense of teamwork with his wife. So with that, I'd love to start to bring us home here, just know that there are ways, tools, strategies, professionals that you can work with to learn how to emotionally regulate yourself, create more self-awareness for yourself, to be able to see things through a more compassionate view, and understand that sometimes conflict is just a sign that your relationship wants to go deeper. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it means like maybe you need to move on, but sometimes it may mean that your relationship is ready to go to the next deeper level. And you absolutely can learn how to communicate in healthy ways to move away from what we call the field of battle, or being on the drama or the victim triangle, and move over to the field of understanding and non-judgment, where we stop kind of criticizing, we start talking at the needs level, and gotta get on what we call the observer triangle or observer consciousness. This is all possible. This is exactly what we teach to our clients. And we've literally helped people to come back from the brink of divorce, or sometimes consciously uncouple if that's the right thing for them, if they're not feeling like they're on the same team and they're not able to find that pathway forward. And again, sometimes that's the healthiest and the best thing to do as well. So either way, if you want to have a conversation for how to find a path forward, get back on the same team, including being a team with yourself, loving yourself again, feeling unstoppable, and knowing that you have the strength, this community, the tools to navigate anything that comes your way, no matter what, you'll be just fine. If you want to learn to walk on that path, feel free to book a call with me. We'll just start with a simple conversation. The link is right here, lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. If you go to my website, lovingwithoutboundaries.com, you can learn more about myself, my work, see testimonials, case studies of people that have gone through this process, including the beautiful and amazing Coach B here. That's how she got started. She just booked a call with me, and we had a beautiful, authentic, and honest conversation, and put our heads together to see what was going to be her best pathway forward. And she completely changed the trajectory, literally, of the rest of her entire life for the better. That leads to us talking here today, which is incredible, right? And it's paid her back in spades in so many different ways. So if that's you, go to that link, lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. Just pick a time in the calendar that works for you. It might be a few weeks out, just because I'm about to go on a meditation, health and wellness retreat next week. So there might be limited times, but know that I will be there to talk with you. There'll be a brief intake form for you to fill out, and there'll be some things to do in the meantime. Watch my masterclass, go to the website, check out some case studies, do your research, so that when we do talk, we can really hit the ground running with that conversation. So, B, anything you'd like to add?
I would like to close this beautiful conversation with a few questions that I usually love to give to this amazing community. So question number one, what beliefs do you currently hold about yourself, others, or relationships that may be influencing how you approach teamwork in your relationships? So starting with this particular self-awareness. And another question is, how do you typically respond when there's a disagreement or tension in your relationship? And are there any ways that you might want to respond differently in those moments? So, for example, you get triggered, you lose your patience, you lash out. and maybe you want to turn it around and learn to take a pause and learn to use time buying statements and come back calm to the conversation. Question number 3, when you think about the kind of teamwork you want in your relationship, what skills or approaches would support that vision? What do you think would help you? Maybe communication skills, maybe sitting with your emotions, doing some healing work. So what might help you to step into that vision? And what are some of your next best steps toward this direction?
Thank you, B. Those are beautiful, really insightful questions that I hope our viewers and our listeners, if you're watching this after the fact, are able to do some self-reflection. So again, if you are seeking help, go to the link, lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply, and we can have a conversation. And otherwise, feel free to join our community on Facebook, Loving Without Boundaries, Healthy Open Relationships and Lifestyle Freedom. And don't forget to check out our podcast, Loving Without Boundaries, as well. So with that, B, thank you so much for this conversation, for the heart and soul that you bring to this work, and your own authenticity and inspiration. So thank you so much. All right. And we'll see everyone later. Bye-bye.